Wait a minute, you're not seriously leaving, are you? I grabbed my husband, who was holding a large suitcase, trying to keep him from leaving. With a look of annoyance, he shook off my arm and said, "Of course I am. We're divorced now, there's no reason for us to live together." We had just finalized our divorce. So it made sense for one of us to move out, but I had always assumed that it would be me. After all, we had been living with his parents. Now that we're divorced, it's only natural that I, who have returned to being a stranger, should be the one to leave. But he was leaving me behind. I grabbed his arm again and confronted him. "What are you going to do about your mother? You can't just leave her here. She can't live alone in a wheelchair." My concern was for my mother-in-law, who was forced to live in a wheelchair. During our cohabitation, I had been her caregiver, but that wasn't possible anymore. Yet, if my husband also left, who would take care of her? As I insisted, my husband looked down at me as if I were absurd. "You should take care of her. Just because we're divorced doesn't mean the bond between parent and child is gone. Taking care of parents is a wife's duty, so support her properly." My name is Emily. I'm a 30-year-old housewife. A few years ago, I married my husband John, who is 5 years older. I was drawn to his positive nature and often found myself being supported by him. When I first went to greet his mother, feeling nervous, he reassured me, "Don't worry. My mom will welcome you. Have confidence in yourself. It'll be fine." Despite my nervousness at his parents' house, my worries soon vanished. His mother listened to me with a smile and maintained eye contact, which helped me speak more fluently. Each time we met, she greeted me with the same smile. His father had passed away, and she was living alone. Recently, she had mentioned feeling bored. John, an only child, had no sisters, so his mother was thrilled to have a daughter-in-law, saying, "I'm so happy to finally have a daughter, and such a good one at that. I'm truly fortunate. Please don't hesitate to be part of our family." Our relationship with my mother-in-law grew closer after marriage, supporting each other when needed. Before my marriage, I lacked confidence and was prone to worry. But gradually, I gained confidence thanks to my husband and mother-in-law. She became one of the women I admire. Even after her children were grown, she spent her time meaningfully, pursuing hobbies and learning new things. Seeing her enjoy life inspired me to do the same. Life is short. Don't waste it being upset or troubled by things or people you dislike. Focus on those who value you and things that fulfill you. Life is not so bad when you do that. She often advised me when I was troubled. Despite her kindness, she was always efficient and agile in her daily life. Even at her age, she was more energetic than me. I changed gradually, inspired by her, but then our lives were overshadowed by a sudden cloud. One day, I received a call from the hospital. "Your mother-in-law is currently hospitalized here. There's no threat to her life, but she has sustained some serious injuries. We would like to discuss this further, so please come to the hospital," the hospital staff explained. The call came to me because John didn't answer his phone. My mother-in-law was in a wheelchair, looking a bit dispirited. "Are you okay? What happened to your leg?" I asked, to which she replied with her usual smile, "I'm fine. I was in a hurry yesterday, tripped, and fell. I'm still too confident in my own physical abilities, so I need to work on that." Though she called an ambulance reluctantly, it was necessary. I immediately contacted John, and we all gathered at the hospital. The doctor said, "She has a fracture and won't be able to live without assistance for a while. Can the family help?" I readily agreed to care for her, and John proposed that we live together to assist her. Since becoming wheelchair-bound, she seemed smaller and more disheartened. But she maintained her positive attitude. "Sorry to trouble you, Emily. I'll do my best to recover as soon as possible. Can I count on your support?" I looked her in the eyes. "You're like a second mother to me. Let me do this." I wanted to return her favor since she helped me a lot. But then a problem arose. John refused to help with his mother's care. Despite his mother being injured and unable to move, he neglected her. I asked him, "Why won't you help your own mother in such a critical situation?" Then my husband John said coldly, "Emily, who stays at home and doesn't work, should do the caregiving. I work all day for the both of us. So, it's your job to take care of my mother. You should know that without me having to say it." And with that, he left for work. From that day on, John began coming home late at night, and I never really got a chance to talk things through with him. Meanwhile, the bond between my mother-in-law and me grew stronger as we spent more time together. Even after a little disagreement with John, I earnestly cared for my mother-in-law, hoping she'd get better soon so we could go out together like before. After a while, I noticed something odd about John. He used to come home at a regular time, but recently, he started coming back unusually late. At first, I thought he was just sulking or would come back hungry eventually. However, his late returns became more frequent, sometimes well into the night. I was half exasperated with him for leaving his mother's care entirely to me, so I didn't pay much attention at first. But as I got used to caring for my mother-in-law, I began to wonder. Could it be that John was leaving the caregiving to me and enjoying himself elsewhere? Seeing his lack of concern for his parents or wife, I started to doubt whether his late returns were really because of work. So, I decided to pay more attention to John's usual behavior. There were various ways to find out the truth, like checking his phone or hiring a detective. However, unexpectedly, John confessed to his infidelity himself. One evening, John came home earlier than usual. At that time, I was helping my mother-in-law move from a chair to her wheelchair. I accidentally forgot to turn the wheelchair towards her, and my hands were full, unable to do anything about it. So, I asked John for help. I said, "Welcome home. You're early today. I'm sorry to ask you this right when you've come back, but could you turn that wheelchair this way?" John reluctantly replied, Even when I come home early, there's nothing good about it. Emily doesn't care about me, just asks me to help with the caregiving, and Mom doesn't consider my feelings because she can't walk. Honestly, it feels suffocating to come back to this house." He lay down on the sofa without greeting me or changing the direction of the wheelchair. He continued, pointing at me, "And what's with that outfit? You don't look feminine at all. Can't you at least wear makeup? The women at my office do it. Don't you think about looking nice to comfort your husband who works hard all day? Women walking on the streets look way better than you." Recently, I hadn't been wearing makeup and chose comfortable pants over skirts due to the physical demands of caregiving. Annoyed by John's thoughtless words, I was hesitant to retort in front of my mother-in-law. John was quite impulsive, often slamming desks or showing aggressive gestures when angry. I was afraid that arguing might lead to him accidentally hurting my mother-in-law. Trying to ignore him, John suddenly changed his tone and said, "What I wanted to tell you today is this. I asked you to take care of my mother, but that doesn't mean you can treat me poorly. You both don't care about me, so I've been stressed every day. But now, I've found a girl who comforts me, so I don't need Emily anymore. She's everything I ever wanted, not like Emily who has lost her femininity. So please, let's get a divorce." What? I was dumbfounded. How could he talk about infidelity so casually and blame me for it? My anger was rising. But to be honest, I had been fed up with John's behavior for a while. As much as his words hurt, I agreed to the divorce. My mother-in-law, who had been listening, furiously scolded John. "What are you saying? Emily has been dressing comfortably for my sake, putting aside her own desires to care for me. She's a kind and skillful woman, a real lady in my eyes. Don't mock her anymore. You can't just betray such a woman and get away with it." She reprimanded him with such force, it was hard to believe she was sitting in a wheelchair. I calmed my mother-in-law, "Please don't blame yourself. I'm very grateful to you." Then I turned to John, "You think I treated you poorly? You don't realize that I cooked dinner every day, waiting for you to come home. You wasted that, not me. If you think being cute and stylish is love, then fine, let's get divorced." But John remained unyielding until the end, saying, "I'm not wrong. Emily, who abandoned her femininity to do nothing but caregiving, is no longer valuable as a woman. The girl I'm seeing now is younger and prettier than you can't compete with her. I realized arguing was pointless. Resigned, I couldn't even bother to stop John as he left for his affair. I had given up on any reconciliation, so I informed my mother-in-law about proceeding with the divorce. She apologized, saying, "I can't believe my own child would do this. I'm truly sorry, Emily. From now on, live your life for yourself." I assured her she wasn't at fault and began the divorce proceedings with John. I also filed for alimony and successfully finalized the divorce. John was no longer my husband. My mother-in-law said, holding my hand, "Emily, thanks to you, my leg has improved a lot. I don't know what would have become of me without your support. You've been my lifesaver. Now, live your life for yourself." But I could see her leg hadn't fully recovered. Distrusting my ex-husband, I urged her to take care and said, "Please don't overdo it. If you need anything, just ask." She replied, "I can't do that. I can manage most things myself, and if something comes up, I'll rely on John." That's how it should be, right? I was at a loss for words, seeing her weakened state. Watching me, John mockingly suggested to my mother-in-law, "What? Now that you're free from a woman with zero charm, you want me to take care of Mom? How can I ever be happy like that? Please, Mom, let your son be independent already." He then looked sternly at me. "Just because we're divorced doesn't mean you can act like we have no relationship. A divorce doesn't sever the bond between mother and child. You have time to care for her since you're just at home all day, unlike me, who's busy with work. So, I'm allowing you to stay in this house. Continue taking care of her properly." He said this triumphantly. My mother-in-law, who had turned red with anger, was the complete opposite of the pleased John. "I will support your mom here. But don't get it wrong. I want to protect her. A heartless son who decided to leave his mother who struggles to live alone, without hiring a helper or finding a facility for her. Whatever you say, just take care of Mom properly," John said dismissively. He seemed relieved that I would continue caring for her, gathered his things, and left the house abruptly. After watching his car leave, I sat down on the sofa, letting out a sigh of relief. My mother-in-law, with a mischievous smile, said, "We did it, didn't we?" I returned her smile. It was the beginning of our life together, just the two of us. A month later, John contacted my mother-in-law. Unlike me, who had immediately blocked John's number after the divorce, she hadn't set up any blocks, thinking he wouldn't contact her again. Sensing something from her puzzled expression during the call, I took over. "Emily! Something terrible has happened. Please help me!" John was shouting on the other end. Interrupting him, he quickly explained. "The girl I was going to marry, an employee at a client company of mine, it turns out everyone at work now knows I left my wife for an affair. And it's spread to the whole client network." His anger turned to a tearful plea. "And she dumped me. Called me the worst, a liar. Her father is the president of the client company. When I went to a meeting, he was furious with me. It's a mess." I replied indifferently, "So what?" Then, as if taken aback, John suddenly became timid and began to stutter. "So, that's why. I mean, I got dumped, and the president is furious at me, deceiving his daughter. Please help me." "Why should I help? We're divorced and strangers now. I have no obligation to help you." As I was about to hang up the phone, John suddenly burst out in a loud, angry voice. "Don't joke with me. You caused all this, didn't you? I'm being sued by her father, and it's affecting my job. I have to apologize daily at work. It's your fault. I'm sorry for my mistake, but it's too much. From now on, you will listen to me and do what I want, will you?" I sighed deeply. "I don't understand you. I never contacted your company. Maybe someone saw you and spread the rumors. It's your own doing." I didn't say it to John, but I thought it was somewhat a good thing that this happened. Had he married the unsuspecting employee, it would have been unfair to her. It seems that John is now being criticized at his company for being a terrible person and for worsening the company's performance. John continued to blame me, saying he couldn't work properly and that I must have told someone at his company. I didn't contact your company. Please don't call again, I said, ending the call and setting up a block on his number for my mother-in-law. I couldn't help but smile, thinking everything had gone as planned. I never told anyone at John's workplace about the affair. The person I informed was the president of the client company, who was John's affair partner's father. In fact, I knew about John's affair and his plans to marry the other woman. Coincidentally, my mother-in-law knew the president well and they were on good terms. When my mother-in-law started her wheelchair life, the president visited her while she was feeling down. He mentioned his daughter's upcoming marriage to cheer her up, saying, "My daughter is getting married soon, and I'd like to invite you to the wedding." That's wonderful. She's grown up to be of marriageable age. I'm looking forward to it. What's the gentleman like? My mother-in-law asked cheerfully. The president, relieved to see her in better spirits, showed a photo of John. My mother-in-law, deciding it was best not to react impulsively, gave a neutral comment on the photo. After the president left, she told me everything. She was distraught that her son was involved with her friend's daughter. I said, let's first confirm if the daughter is aware of the affair. If she's being deceived into thinking he's single, we'll inform the president. If the president finds out. My mother-in-law nodded in agreement. That's fine. If she's aware of the affair, she should face the consequences. Seeing her shaking, I prayed the daughter was an innocent victim. It was later revealed that John lied about being divorced and single. After John left our home, satisfied with the divorce, I wrote a letter to the president. When we met later, he was a kind man who apologized profusely and even gave me an expensive gift. The daughter, also a victim, apologized several times and was determined to sue John. John, having angered the president and his daughter, was in big trouble. I thought my revenge was over, but John started contacting me repeatedly. All right, nobody's at fault. You're still looking after my mother, right? Then you're still part of my family. Let's live together. Not in that old house, but in my apartment. I've got laundry piling up. He shamelessly suggested, among other nonsensical things. No matter how many times I blocked his number, he kept calling from different ones, so it was a never-ending game. Eventually, we set up a block for all numbers except those registered. One day, someone started rattling our front door. My mother-in-law and I exchanged glances. Then, the door was pounded on, and John's voice echoed. Hey, open up! I've come to pick you up! A chill ran down my spine. There was no way I was opening the door in this situation. Nodding to my mother-in-law, I responded. What do you want? I've come to pick you up. Open the door quickly. You've been taking care of my mother as a housewife, but the alimony I gave you must be running out, right? So, I thought I'd support you again. Come on, start packing for the move. His unsolicited offer to pick me up, his boast about the alimony he paid, his claim that he would support me. To me, John now seemed like a creature from another world. My mother-in-law must have felt the same. Approaching from behind, she said with a trembling voice, "We don't need it. We're going to live together, just the two of us. Besides, you're no longer my son. How dare you show your face here? Just disappear, please." What? What's with that attitude? It's pointless for two non-earning women to stick together. I'm offering help, so just open the door. John retorted, pounding on the door even harder than before. Then, in a quiet voice, he muttered, "It's the inheritance from Dad, right?" When I let out a surprised sound, John began pounding on the door as if trying to break it, rattling the lock continuously. Yeah, that's it. Two women with no money can't live on their own. There must still be some of Dad's inheritance left, right? You've been living off it, keeping it a secret from me. I can't believe it. I'm his son. I have a right to inherit too. Indeed, my father-in-law had passed away. But the inheritance issue had been settled. John must have received his legal share. It's not from Dad's inheritance. I've been giving Emily my own money every month. About $4,000 as living expenses and as a thank you for taking care of me even after the divorce. After my mother-in-law's chilly response, John's dumbfounded voice came through, huh? A woman like Emily is rare nowadays. She became a housewife at her husband's request, lived with her mother-in-law, and when I was injured, she took on caregiving to save on helper fees, in addition to her usual household chores. Even after divorcing such a foolish son, she still looks after me. Right after the divorce, she even tried to work to earn my helper fees. I can only be grateful. Moved by my mother-in-law's sincere words, I added, I'm working from home now to contribute to our living expenses, even if it's not much. Anyway, you don't have to worry about us. We can live on our own. There was silence from John for several seconds, probably absorbing our words. I didn't know Mom had such savings. $4,000 a month? That's impossible, he finally said, seemingly in disbelief. My mother-in-law nodded, and I explained. She's more remarkable than you think. She's been managing her finances through investments from the inheritance from her father and my father-in-law. Her income dwarfs yours. She's also very studious and didn't give up learning. After her fracture and being unable to move, she focused even more and managed to earn a steady income. Then John yelled, That's nonsense. I never heard about such money. You two have been deceiving me, living a luxurious life behind my back. Don't you understand? I'm her blood-related son. You're just a devil and a daughter-in-law by marriage. It's natural that I, her blood-related son, should be prioritized. All the money you've received so far belongs to me. To which my mother-in-law replied, As I said, there's no money for you. The money I've grown is mine alone. It's my right to spend my money as I wish. John fell silent, then suddenly shouted, But when Mom dies, I'm the one who will inherit. You won't get a cent. A broken-legged old woman like you will just deteriorate and die soon anyway. But his words sounded like sour grapes. My mother-in-law then smiled at me. I thought he might say that. That's why I'm moving all my assets, like real estate and stocks, to Emily through a living trust. We're consulting with a tax advisor about how to proceed to minimize taxes. Then she continued. Even though you have a legal right to inherit, I'm selling this house to finance our new home and move. By the time I die, there won't be much savings left for you to inherit. With that icy declaration, John finally lost it. The police, whom I had already called, came and took away the raging John. You're still my wife. Why does a non-blood-related stranger get money from my parent, not me? That's crazy. A man who dumps caregiving on his wife, cheats with a younger woman, and then constantly talks about money. Even if he is blood-related, he's unforgivable. Blood or not, Emily is my daughter, my family. Don't ever show your face here again. In the end, it all came down to a shouting match between parent and child, and John was taken away by the police. Following our declaration, my mother-in-law and I sold the house and moved. We also changed our cell phones, not just blocking calls, finally severing all ties with John. Our relationship with the president remained good, allowing us to learn about John's subsequent life. Realizing he couldn't do anything, John gave up on us and resumed his usual life, but soon lost his job for causing damage to the company. He managed to find a new job but caused issues with women there too. The chaos escalated, leading to his resignation. Job after job, he kept causing problems with women, becoming notorious in the industry as a good-for-nothing. It seems John now only talks about his past glories, saying he used to be popular. His boasting of infidelity isn't something anyone wants to hear, leading to his isolation everywhere. Mentally exhausted, he started to act out and was eventually evicted from his rental. He is now living like a homeless person, day to day. He lost everything, his job, his family's trust, and no one around to help. I hope he realizes how fortunate he once was and the support he had from others. While I'm not too hopeful, I wish from afar that John reaches that realization. As for me, in my new home, I replaced all furniture and appliances with the latest models and enjoyed redecorating with my mother-in-law. Her leg has improved significantly, allowing us to go out more. Her strength and complexion have returned, and I feel relieved. Walking on my own after so long makes me appreciate happiness more than ever. Being able to walk is such a simple yet blissful thing. My mother-in-law smiled. I nodded vigorously, feeling anew the happiness in ordinary days. I plan to live gratefully like my mother-in-law, appreciating the people around me and focusing on the happiness right in front of me. My biggest wish is for our peaceful life together to continue for a long time.